For a while now, I've been thinking how I could create an effects rack within Ableton that would generate atmosphere around basic sounds like a piano or anything really, drums, vocals. You only have to think back to Portishead, things like that, the atmospheres they could create around the sounds and tones within their music. So I was playing with that idea. How could I get something like that? Well, I've created a rack. We can have a quick listen and then I'll show you how the rack works, and as always, if you're interested, how you can put this rack together yourselves. So I'll begin by just playing the piano with no effects on it at all, just the bass tone for the piano. And then I'll just play a couple of examples here of the snapshots I've made using this rack, and then I'll explain what's going on in the rack, what elements I have in the rack, and how to use it. So let's just switch it on. And straight away we can get these sort of textured atmospheres. We'll just try a couple very quickly. These are presets I've made from the macro positions. Okay, so I think you get the idea. Whole series of these different effects. A lot of them I've made simply by randomizing and then just tweaking them a little bit. But what have we got here effectively? Well, we can close that. I hope the piano doesn't drive us too crazy. Maybe I'll turn that down a little. We have quite a complicated rack. It's not one of the easiest ones I've built. We've got a whole selection of things. We've got a Redux for bit reduction, saturator, cabinet, some distortion, vinyl distortion, an auto filter, chorus ensemble, a delay, reverb, and utility. It's quite a complex rack, but it's not so tricky to put together. It's just really a case of the mappings here, which as always I'll show later in the video. I'll put a screenshot up. You just got to get the elements in, map them correctly, and then punch in these constraints here. But we'll come to that in the build. So what do we actually have? Well, if we go to a bass sound, we have, let's close all these, we don't need these for a second, actually we can do that here. So we have, first of all, drive. Seem to upset it. So the drive here, we can drive the sound, but these have all been tweaked so we don't get an excessive amount of any of these, but they're kind of balanced so to get the right kind of tone. We can add texture. And the further we go, the more coarse the sound becomes, and the more vinyl crackle we get as well. We can add a little bit of modulation to the sound. We'll take this down a little bit. We can filter. We can change it, the type of filter. We can morph around to a high pass, low pass. We can engage the cabinet simulation as well. We turn this on. We have, maybe let's turn this down a second. Turn that up. Different speaker simulations, different mic positions, all have an effect on the sound. And using these upper controls, we can work on the sound we want. And then we can add the spatial effects to it below here. So we have different delay rates we can set left and right, delay feedback. And it's quite interesting when you randomize and get different delay rate settings which you wouldn't automatically put in. You can get some very sort of interesting sounds when you offset your delay synchronization. And then finally we have here a reverb effect. We change the size, the time, and this combination here allows us to generate these different atmospheres. As an example, let's try and randomize one, see what we get. Maybe bring a bit more brightness back. Bit of texture. Let's try another one. So there's a whole sort of world of different ambiences you can generate with this. I'm just using a simple piano here. You can use drum loops, you can use vocals. Try one more. Big delay times, reverb times. Small reverbs, all kinds of combinations. Anyway, I hope you get the idea. Once you find a combination of macro settings which you like, you just save them here as a new snapshot, and then you can recall your snapshots at will. You would save the rack here once it's built, and this would appear then in your user library here under preset, effects racks. But anyway, let's have a look how it's put together then. It's a little bit tricky, it's not the easiest rack, but if you're patient, it comes together quite quickly. Let's have a look how it's put together. I've kept my original audio effects rack. You'll find that audio effects rack. You just drag it in, drop it on a MIDI channel. Let's open this up. You'll have macro 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've kept my original names and I've renamed them here. You can use my names or choose your own, that's your choice. We'll need all 16. So what we'll do first, we'll drop the effects in, then we'll go through and set some of them up, then we'll map them, and then finally I'll show you a couple of screenshots of the constraints you need to enter yourselves, and hopefully then the rack should be set up. So let's go through first and drop in the effects we're going to need. We're going to need the Redux here. We will also need the saturator here. Cabinet. The vinyl distortion at the bottom again. Then the auto filter. Now this is built using Ableton Live 12.3. The new auto filter came in 12.2. I guess you could use the original one, but I'm using the new version of auto filter, and I'd recommend that. Then we have the chorus ensemble. It's here. Our delay, just the standard delay. Reverb. And finally, we need the utility at the end here. Okay, so those are the effects we're going to use. Now we'll go through very quickly and set them all up. Some don't need any settings, but some do. The Redux doesn't need any settings. The saturator also doesn't need any settings. We can leave that as it is. So we'll close these two. The cabinet as well, that needs no settings. The vinyl distortion, I made a couple of settings here. I set the density here to 1. We will map this and we will map this, so we don't have to worry about that yet. Okay, yes, I didn't adjust those. So that one we can close as well. We'll come back to that. The auto filter, I set this to morph. I've also set the drive to MS2. We need to set here the wave to S&H, sample and hold, on the LFO. And these are okay. We'll map these in a second. So we can also activate the clip here as a useful safeguard. So that one's set up. The chorus ensemble, I selected the filter and set it to 1000, so 1 kilohertz. The warmth I set to 10%. And the dry wet remains at 50. The rest we will map in a second, so we can close that one. With the delay, I unlinked the two delays so they can run independently. I also made some settings to the filter for the delay. So this I set to 8620, 8620. I set the dry wet to 30%. And the rest we will map in a second, so we can close that. The reverb, I also made some settings here. I set this to low and drag this to about 1 kilohertz, 1.04 kilohertz. Pre-delay I kept the same. And the rest we will actually map, so there's no need to do anything. Now I turned off the high cut here for the input filter, so that was deactivated. It's important. Okay, and the utility finally, I just increased the volume a little bit to 2.5 decibels. So 2.5 decibels here. I think that's everything. Right, okay, so now we just need to go through, can open these all up again and map them. Do our mapping now. So I'll just go through them individually. So the Redux, we need to map the sample rate here to our texture, the bit depth to the texture as well. This we can now close. Then we have the saturator. I map the drive here to the drive macro here. Also the color amount here, this value here, it's also mapped to drive. And finally the output here is mapped to drive. So that one is now set up. The cabinet, I set the this icon here, the on-off icon, I map to the speaker. And the reason for that is we'll set this up in the macros, but this will effectively enable you to turn on and off the cabinet if you don't want to use the cabinet. I map the speaker to the speaker macro and the microphone to the mic position here. That's complete. Then we have the vinyl distortion. I map the global drive here to texture. I also mapped the crackle volume here to the texture as well. So that one's complete. The auto filter, the frequency was mapped to the filter frequency. The resonance to the filter resonance, and the morph to the morph. And then we have the drive is mapped to the drive macro as well. Now the frequency here, the LFO amount, that's mapped to the flutter. The rate is also mapped to the flutter. And finally this, where are we? The smooth here, this little box here, smooth is also mapped to the flutter as well. So that is the auto filter setup. Now we have the chorus ensemble. We map the rate to the flutter, the amount to the flutter, and the width, where are you here? This little box also goes to flutter. Okay, so that one is set up as well. Oh, I've just noticed something actually. I forgot here, we'll come out of here quickly. This feedback should have been set to 10%. So let's set that now. Okay, back into our mapping. This is now complete. Now we have the delay. We'll map the left delay to the delay rate L and the right to the delay rate R. The feedback we map to delayed feedback here. That should be everything. Okay, so that's the delay setup. Finally, the reverb. We need to map the size here to the reverb size, the decay to reverb time, the dry wet we can map here to dry wet, the reflect, we map here reverb reflect, and the reverb diffuse is this value here, we map here. Now we have a couple more of this diffusion and scale. These need to be mapped to the texture here. So that one, and the scale as well, we'll also map that to texture. Okay, that should be everything. Let me just check. So now I'll put up a screenshot. There'll be two screenshots of the constraints here, so you can take your time and punch them in. Please be careful, get them in correctly. Some of them will affect things like drive here, so you have to be very careful. You get loud volumes. As always, I recommend when you build these things on the main channel, please use a limiter. Put a limiter here from your audio effects here. There's a limiter here. Drop that in here. That'll catch anything. If anything goes wrong while you're putting in these constraint values, maybe you put a wrong value for volume or drive. So that will stop any problems there. Okay, so yeah, punch them all in. I'll see you on the other side, and then we can test, make sure everything works fine. Okay, so I did notice one mistake I made when I was punching in the constraints. I forgot to map this here, which is the delay on off. You need to map that to the delay feedback macro here. So this icon, this button here, map it here and set it to 1, 0. You probably would have seen the 1, 0. Hopefully I've left a note in the past in the video so that you don't make that mistake as well. that should be everything punched in. As I say, be careful with some of these values because they do affect volume levels. So just be very careful, especially with the drive here, the drive output and some of the others. And you might have noticed here, if you try to type in 14.5, you get nonsense. So these kind of large values, you have to type in 14,500 and that gives you the right value. Just some tips. Yeah, okay, so once you've got these in, let's try it out, see what happens. We'll close that now. You save it here, as I said, you save it here. It'll arrive in your user library, audio effects rack. You'll find it in here, and then you can drop it into any project you wish. So let's just try it out, make sure everything's okay. Snapshots will open up here. Let's try the bass. Try the filter. Texture. Okay, let's try one of the presets. Okay, so everything seems to be working okay. A little bit tricky to build this one. It's a nice rack though. Hope it's useful to somebody, and yeah. See you hopefully in the next video. Take care.